Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and on this channel I like to talk about all things film, Blu-ray and physical media collecting. So I'm back. I've been away for a little while, taking a break from YouTube to have family time and focus on my studies and working as well. It's been quite stressful, but I'm pleased to be here to make a video and just spark conversation and then talk about something. So I thought for my first video back, I would just review a few of the things that I've been watching since I have been taking a break, and I'll try and do sort of like a 3 film review video type thing. As you'll probably see from the thumbnail, you know what these films are. And yeah, let's just jump straight into it. First off, I watched a late 90s slasher. Sort of like in the mid to late 90s, there was like a slasher revival after sort of like the slasher genre died out. Towards the end of the 80s, there was like a half a decade maybe gap, and then the genre boomed again. And this is one of those films that came from that period, and it's Jamie Blanks' Urban Legend. So I got this in the sort of large 88 films box set of all the Urban Legend trilogy, which I'll show on screen now. It's up on the shelf above me and I can't bother to get up and get it. And this was really fun to revisit. It was actually better than I remembered it being. It stars a lot of like pre-fame sort of actors here. So there's Jared Leto in one of his early film performances, Alicia Witt, who may be more famous for doing a really long string of terrible Christmas movies. But she was, as a younger actor, she was in Twin Peaks, and she returned to Twin Peaks in a very small role in The Return that came out in 2017. There's Tara Reid in here as well, and a bunch of other famous faces, including Robert Freddy Krueger England in a really fantastic role. And this plays out very much like a giallo. So when I saw this back in sort of the early 2000s, I wouldn't have like got the giallo references. Very influenced by that sort of storytelling, and I really enjoyed this. It's not in the same league as say the Scream films, particularly Scream 1 and 2, but it's definitely fun and a very competently made film that I think is very enjoyable, something I will revisit. So I'm really glad I picked this up. I haven't yet delved into the other 2 films in the trilogy. I've heard the second one is meant to be serviceable, and the third one maybe quite forgettable, but all 3 films came in the box set. So I have actually watched a bunch of the special features on here. There's a really good documentary about the making of, and some interviews with the cast and crew, which was really fun to watch. And I think that's been ported over from the Scream Factory edition of this, of their release basically. And yeah, there's audio commentaries which I haven't listened to yet, but I will at some point. And yeah, I'm really happy I picked that box set up, basically based on this one viewing, and I really enjoyed this. It doesn't say if it's a scan of a film negative. I'm assuming in the late 90s this would have been on film. I should probably done some research before filming this, but it just says it's a high definition 1080p presentation of the film, and I think it looks fantastic. Like, I have no qualms with the picture quality. I thought it was really crisp and yeah, really nice. So I really enjoyed this one. So moving on to something a little bit different. I'm slowly working my way through this director's filmography, mainly because they're quite intimidating in how offensive they can be to some people, and how in bad taste they are purposefully. And I'm talking about John Waters' Female Trouble.
I got lots of problems. Female trouble.
This film, along with Multiple Maniacs, which is the only other John Waters film I've seen, actually tell a lie, I have seen Hairspray, but it's a very different era of filmmaking. So it's all the divine sort of vehicles of the films that John Waters made, sort of like in the 70s basically. But yeah, Female Trouble came out in 1974. Yep. And yeah, this is a divine show basically. I absolutely love this film. It is in bad taste. There are some quite offensive things in this. I would understand if people watched this and wanted to turn it off or thought it goes too far in some respects. But for me, where it pushes the boundaries is what makes it genius filmmaking. It's very low budget. The dialogue and the filmmaking is very sort of, not to put it down too much, but it's very backyard, sort of homespun type filmmaking, even though it had quite a bit of a budget, even low budget. But I just adore this film. Divine is just incredible in this film. He has some fantastic one-liners. It follows the story of a young girl called Dawn Davenport, played by Divine, who was like a man in his late 30s, I think, at the time that this was made. And it details her like life from being in like high school up until a lot later in life, after she's had like a child and is sort of becomes a criminal. And the mantra of this film is crime is beauty. And yeah, it has to be seen to be believed. The aesthetic of this film is not for everybody, but if you kind of appreciate the punk aesthetic to this film, it's very anti lots of things. It's very difficult to describe. It has to be seen to be believed, but it has some so funny moments. There's a particular scene in which Divine's character on Christmas morning is hoping that he will open some cha-cha heels that they've been wanting so badly, and carnage ensues.
You ruined my Christmas!
And there's just so much fantastic dialogue in this film. It stars all of the regular characters that would be in sort of like the Dreamland productions, like Mink Stoll and David Lockery and Mary Vivian Pearce, and I will very shortly be watching Polyester because I love this so much. And I think anyone who's a fan of John Waters' work is eagerly anticipating the Criterion putting out Pink Flamingos. I'm not sure what the hold up is on that, but I think it's inevitable that that's going to be released at some point. And I for one can't wait to watch it, even though I'm kind of intimidated to do so, because I hear that that film is his most outlandish and offensive and out there, you know, effort to date. So yeah, absolutely love this. Packed to the rafters with special features. I should mention it's a 4K digital it's a 4K digital restoration that was supervised by John Waters, which is fantastic. Audio commentary from 2004 by John Waters, and then a conversation between John Waters and critic Dennis Lim, which is really fascinating, and then loads of archival interviews with the cast and crew and some deleted scenes as well. Really fantastic release. It's a sort of a UK and a US release by Criterion, so it has this ugly 18 certificate on the case here, which isn't too bad because it's not on the spine on the UK ones, which isn't too bad. But fantastic release. If you want to try something that's a bit more out there, out of your comfort zone, sort of budget filmmaking that's very punk, very anti pretty much everything, then try this film. I sort of reservedly recommend it. This next film is something that was on my radar for a while, and it was in a sale for Criterion releases that were directed by women. I think it was like 2 for £25 in the UK here. So this is from 2015, directed by Agnieszka. I'm not even going to pronounce it. I'll just put it on screen. I do apologize, but she's a Polish lady. It's a Polish film called The Lure. This is a very unique film. It is essentially a mermaid story or a siren story set in Poland in the 80s. And it's a very personal film for the director. I mean, the whole mermaid thing is fantastical and not real, but the whole it's set in a nightclub environment where these people who own this nightclub like entertain in it, and then they come across these young girls who turn out to be mermaids, and it's about how they try to assimilate into society, but they're too different and they can't do it. One of the mermaids falls in love and the other gets jealous, and it just cascades from there. As I said, it's also a musical, so there are some really interesting, quite catchy musical numbers in it. I will say that some of the musical numbers fell a little short for me in terms of their entertainment value, although there are some absolute crackers in here. And I do think another rewatch of this will let me enjoy the songs a little bit more now I know where the story ends up. But yeah, this is really interesting. I love the way this is shot. It's very stylized, and a really interesting take on someone who grew up in like the nightclub scene and paying homage to that, but also incorporating these sort of fantasy elements of mermaids into the narrative, and it's fantastic. I think it's really interesting. After I finished watching it, I thought it was interesting and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't until like about a week later when I was reflecting on it that I realized that this film is actually pretty good, and I think a rewatch will improve my opinion of what I think of this film. So with bonus features on this disc, there's interviews with the filmmakers and the composers as well, and the choreographer, and there's a bunch of deleted scenes and some short films by the director as well, and that's all really good stuff. Not packed to the rafters, but a really good release nonetheless from Criterion, and yeah, I recommend this one too. So those are 3 films that I've reviewed for you. All of them are strong recommendations, and yeah, I've enjoyed making this video. It's been quite refreshing. If you would have seen this uncut, you would have realized that I made so many mistakes, and I'm quite rusty at talking to a camera at the moment. I'm sure that will get better as I make some more videos with a bit more frequency moving forward. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Is the most important thing. Let's have a conversation about films and physical media. Have you seen any of these films that I reviewed? What did you think of them? And based on these films, are there any films that you could recommend me or any other person in the comments regarding their enjoyment of these? So until next time, everyone, take care.